All right. So I am here with Nick Motz. Hey, Nick.
Hey Jen, how you been?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I'm enjoying the 70-degree weather.
I know, right?
I'm out
It's
in my truck.
awesome. It's great. Well, Nick, the reason why I wanted to bring you on to explain your journey to eXp is because you've been an agent for over 20 years. You invest in real estate, you do commercial, you do residential, and you had your own brokerage for a long time. So can you just share a little bit about what prompted you to come over to eXp and why it works out, how you like figured that it worked better for you?
Sure. It was really kind of the last 5 years in the making before I converted over to eXp. I went through the exercise of um, going and creating my own brokerage, bringing on agents, recruiting myself, and I brought on at the high point 4 agents. So I had one seasoned agent that was Heather Mingo that came
Mhm.
over from Keller, and then I had 3 newbies that had all just come out of school. And my main goal is to create passive income. Like
Okay.
any
And that's why you
business owner.
said, I'm gonna do my own because I can have less expenses and create more. Because if you built your team anywhere else, they would still have to split it with the brokerage and with you.
Correct. So I was the broker. I got 100% commission, and my goal was to, have agents that would, feed me income the day I stopped selling myself.
Okay.
Well, then I found out in those 3, 4, 5 years that that's a whole nother business in itself.
Yeah, for sure.
So just retrain, training the recruits, recruiting itself, keeping them, the retention, and keeping up with the technology. And being a small mom and pop brokerage, you have to be constantly keeping up with technology, trying to stay at the head of the curve. And I found out real quick that it's a lot of work. It's a full-time job. And then my 4 agents started dropping off and either getting out of the business or going back to a bigger broker. I was back to square one.
Yeah.
And then I had actually heard of eXp, but I'd never really looked into it yet.
Hmm.
And I asked Monica Weekly, who I had hired for a coach for the whole brokerage, just to tell me about it, because here she was with her license at eXp, but I had never asked her about it.
Right.
So she's like, "Really? Do you want to know about it?" I'm like, "Sure." I'm like, I'm not afraid to look at new things.
Right.
So once I saw the model, I went and created like my own spreadsheet of all the numbers because I'm a numbers person,
Yeah, I remember
and I just
seeing
plug.
that. I think I asked you
Yes,
it at one point, like, show me what you're looking at.
yeah. So I converted over on January 1 of 19. So
Okay.
I took my entire 2018 year and I plugged it in like my own brokerage and all my income and all my expenses. And then next to it, I plugged it in as if I was at eXp. And when I looked at the bottom line and I backed out all the costs and all the headache and what little bit of money I was actually pulling in from the other agents, it was a wash.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. That's even before revenue share and before stock.
Right. So why not?
So yeah, why not? So I'm I love the part where you could co-brand. eXp is very flexible. They're not rigid like a Sibsy Klein. I can co-brand my marketing, so I really kept my image the same. And you know, the to the average person out on the street, they can't really tell the difference. I mean, they still
No.
think it's me.
Right. And it is still you. And to your point, I
Yeah,
mean, that's exactly what we experienced too. I mean, because we were basically with a team of like 10, we were basically like a mini brokerage. But it's like
yeah,
just moved our operation over. I mean, we shrunk, but like we could have just moved the operation over to eXp and then had basically corporate be responsible for training. So then that would take off the headache and they would make more money and I would make more money. So it's like, oh, well, that seems like a win-win for everyone, you know?
sure, yeah. So it's been great. I've loved the last 2 years.
So what do you say to people that own like boutique brokerages or they want to be their own broker and they don't and they're kind of hesitant to take a look at it because they're like, well, I'm my own broker of our own boutique brokerage.
Hmm.
What do you say?
Um, I I'm just a numbers person, so I always kept an open mind myself. I'm always looking. What's the technology that's coming down the road?
Right,
Am I going to adopt it myself, or am I going to do something different?
right,
So I think when you're a small business, you have to keep an open mind. You have to be always looking for the next thing, because if you don't, you're going to get
right.
bulldozed at some point in time.
Well,
And
things are always
that's just the way
changing.
it is.
I mean, they always change
Yeah,
all the time. So I think it's a matter too of like, what do you believe real estate is going to be like? Do you think it's going to be more like brick and mortar, or do you think a lot of it, I mean, it's been going towards online. It seems like that's how
yeah,
it's going, so why not be at the forefront instead of recreating the wheel? But to your point, you maintained your brand, right?
correct.
So it's still
Yeah,
Motz
so
Realty.
my brand is, yeah, it's still Motz at Brokered by eXp. So you know, a lot of the people that see my signs on the street, I've had people ask me like, "What is that? Some kind of software platform you're using? What's eXp?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's like I'm cutting edge. I have the best technology. We're gonna, we can go over and above the KWs and everyone else." So.
That's so funny. I like it. Cool. Well, that's definitely important for people to know that they can like keep their branding. And it's
Hmm.
actually like if you're attracting other agents, you can attract a more diverse crowd of agents, and so that means you can get more agents either on your team or just, part of like your organization. It doesn't have to be on your team. So like that's kind of nice
Exactly.
too. But
Yeah, it's
cool.
real. I mean, the whole eXp platform kind of lets me operate as a quote unquote brokerage within the main brokerage.
Yeah.
So I still feel like I'm doing the same thing I was before without all the overhead and
Right.
hassle that I had to deal with. The bookkeeping, the record keeping,
Right.
making sure I was in compliance. I never got audited in those 10 years, but if I had, it would have been a huge undertaking to, produce all the records, make sure everything was presented to the auditor and everything.
Right. Exactly.
So,
Cool. Well, I really appreciate you being on, sharing your story. And you do, like we said before, you do commercial, you do residential, and then do you do Kentucky or just Cincinnati?
I am finally in Kentucky. I don't know why I put it off for so many years, but I got I got licensed about 3 years ago,
Nice.
and it's been great because I do quite a bit in Kentucky. I always referred it to a Remax friend of mine, but yeah, but I do about 50% commercial and investment and 50% residential.
Nice.
So
So if people have
it's
a
a good
deal
mix.
that they want to talk to you about in Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky, or they have a referral, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Usually by email, Nick at Go with Motz, or obviously my cell phone 513-202-3251.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Nick. Have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Jen.
Bye.